Alright, so today we're going to talk about a different type of kick system. In our previous lessons we learned a lot about different number systems, and this is very similar to the +2 system that we learned for using two rail kick, short rail first. But this is a visual method of finding the same line rather than counting out the diamonds and using the math to do so. This is really helpful, especially when the balls are out in the middle of the table and it's a little bit more tricky to use those numbers versus when they're by the rail. But for today, for this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and try and two-rail kick that 8 ball that's in the corner pocket. Our opponent left us a really nice safe where they took this rail out of the equation. We can't use that. Coming into this rail doesn't do us any good either. That leaves us only this rail. If we went single rail, especially if you're shooting across hands, a non-dominant hand, shooting over a ball, very low percentage, or even if you're using a bridge. So we're actually going to have increased percentages by going two rail. So this system is for short rail, two rail first, and that's exactly what this is. It's a very simple system to identify. You find your midpoint between where you're coming from, the cue ball, and where you're going to, the 8 ball. There's our line. We find the midpoint right between those two lines. We can connect it to the pocket that we're hooking around. Again, we've decided we're going to come into this rail, that rail, and come back across. Now, once we've identified this line, we can just parallel shift over the top of the cue ball. And where I see that I need to be is right where that chalk is. That's my parallel shift. Most students, when they're first learning this, they tend to take their cue and they go wide as they're shifting. And if you're finding that you're always coming down in this area, you're going wide, then one of the things you might want to do, because it's a lot easier to compensate here than to teach you how to parallel shift better, is to just aim back in towards your pocket a little bit. Another technique you can use is to stand with your cue in front of your face, behind the midpoint in the pocket line, and then just do a side step to get over the top of the cue ball and look through onto the rail to find your point. Once you've found your parallel shift, and with a little bit of practice you'll get better at parallel shifting, then all we're going to do is hit this with running English. We're going to the left, and I'm going to be hitting high running English, 10 o'clock. If I was going to the right, I'd go high running English, 2 o'clock. And again, short rail first only. So once we found our spot, now I can address this at 10 o'clock. And with a comfortable stroke, we should be able to expect to put that ball in. Or at least make contact with the ball and not give up ball in hand. Give it a practice, especially with that parallel shift. Most of the time that this system isn't working, it's not because of failure to hit the right spot on the cue ball, but more so something happened with that parallel shift. And in my experience, most of the time, it's because the student went wide. So just keep that in mind and keep it tight. Good luck.